Okay, so where are we at? We are in part 2. So this is the taking action element. Again, what we're trying to begin to walk us through is this organizing cycle and organizing process. Sometimes you're starting this where you know what the issue is. You have either some funding, you have already had a ton of conversations with residents, so you kind of know this is an issue I think we can work on uniquely. Right, beyond housing is probably going to be working on housing, but housing then also does implicate safety, neighborhood access, jobs, transportation, but you kind of know, okay, this is the bucket of work we're going to be focused on. But often you hear so many things, so many different issues, and then there's a lot of ideas everybody has. How do we want to tackle this one thing? So again, I want you to begin to think about an issue and how would you narrow the focus of a project. So let's imagine you have had 20, 40, 60 learning conversations. You've begun to gather a group of people, right? So you've taken these individual conversations. You now have a gathering where you're regularly checking in. At an EMP space for us, that could be like a parent coffee hour where we're starting to hear issues. The parents that are coming, they keep naming some stuff. Okay, we have 10 of us here. What do we want to do about that? What's one thing what we need as humans is we need early wins. We need to get something that we are successful at. It doesn't have to be like we've changed the whole system of Fresno, or this thing that is broken is now that we get a brand new park. That's going to take 10 years, 5 years. But if we could just do a thing that we all feel like it was successful, that's a win for us. So what we're trying to do in this next phase is we've had these conversations. We have a group of people we're now gathering with. If you've ever been in a conversation where somebody's brainstorming, this person's telling everybody what they should do, that's a very frustrating meeting. That's a very frustrating conversation. So what we want to do is practice this tool called open, narrow, close. Open, narrow, close. If you have your packets, pull out this. It's stapled. It's a separate packet. Kind of got like a little pyramid shape going. I think it's. We're going to use, I gave you more than you need, but you see it's a staple packet here. It says stages of a discussion. In the PDF, in the folder, Google folder we're going to give you, there's a whole like facilitating meetings training. This is a section of that packet. It's like 50 pages. Got some really great tools, really great resources. But whenever you get a group of humans together, and you're trying to accomplish a task, you have to move it from brainstorming to kind of whittling down to actually selecting a thing to work on. Open, narrow, close is really a chance to do that. So we have our, as this slide says, we have our gatherer connector leaders, and we're trying to identify something that we want to work on. Yeah. Okay, so main idea, open, narrow, close. It's not that difficult. As we start a conversation, we're very open. So I think in any place, what we want to do, you've been in brainstorming scenarios, the worst thing you could do as a facilitator is to begin to shoot down ideas. I have been in those meetings when a facilitator is sharing and they know where they want to go. They've already decided on the issue, they've already decided the strategy, and then you just kind of go, why are we here? You feel very disempowered, right? You feel very much like, what's the point of this meeting? Why am I even here? And so with open, narrow, close, the starting point is let's throw everything on the table. There is literally no bad idea because we are just at a brainstorming phase. Anything's an option. Any strategy is an option. So let's, my idea, some of you were here last time we did this. The thing I want to work on is my chickens. I got my chickens taken away by the city. So I've had chickens for about 6 to 7 years. We have an apartment complex behind us and we assume it's them because all of our other neighbors were cool with it. We probably had a new person move into the apartment. I had seen a open spot available. Somebody probably moved in, was annoyed. We had a really loud hen. We don't have any roosters, but we did have a really loud hen that always was talking, even if she wasn't laying. She was talking, and so I assumed they called. City came out, you're not supposed to have chickens. I think it's dumb. The city of Fresno just hasn't updated its code. There's no one that has done the work to talk to council members, rally enough community members who would then get this law changed. So in an open stage conversation, it's like, what are all the things we could do, right? We could talk to a council member. We could do a protest and all wear chicken costumes. We could do some research. We could just brainstorm 1,000 different things we could do to be about this. We could all just complain with each other and commiserate. We could start a Facebook page. We could whatever, right? We can talk to media. We can just go down a long, long list. And at this open stage, again, you see this is a larger part of so this graphic also kind of shows the dynamic here. The open stage should be about half of your conversation. This is a wide-ranging conversation that we want to be like, open the minds of each of us to be like, what could happen? What are the possibilities if I'm trying to change housing in our neighborhood? If I'm talking to kids and to say, what are the things you care about? We want them to just dream. No cost, no things. Sometimes as we get to a thing, we're going to use those ideas later. I think about funding as a nonprofit director, so I'm like, oh, there's an idea that somebody said, but we don't have the money for. Now I got ideas of stuff we could do in the future if we had the money, right? Stuff that I wasn't even imagining because I was putting a filter on of that's not possible, or that's not practical. So this is this open phase, right? So we start there in the open phase. Ideas, everything is thrown out there. What you then need to do is move into this narrowing piece. So you need to figure out and need to find a way to gather consensus. What are the things that we could use to do there? So if you were going to try and narrow, what's a strategy or a way that you think you could narrow that keeps everybody involved? Have you ever been in a meeting where somebody's done this well? What have they done? When you narrow the conversation from like anything's possible to like, okay.
A guiding question?
A guiding question? Like, do you have any example or?
So we're talking about road conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so what do you guys think about all the potholes in this area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to get real specific on something tangible.
I think about when we had Thriving Solutions come in, right? And we all put like different issues we wanted to work on. But then we narrowed down, like, we put categories of like, oh, what are similar? So we literally had like our Post-it notes, and we like, all right, this is similar to this. We're talking about funding, we're talking about dreaming or programs, and so we clustered them. And then like we went in and it's like, all right, we're gonna choose one, right?
So that's a very, you imagined even a tool. So you have sticky notes, right? Everybody's writing these ideas on this board over here. And then begin to get somebody up there and say, hey, can you kind of find a similarity here? Can you group these for us? So you're now going from 50 ideas to maybe 10 groups of ideas. And there's a theme around that one group, okay? That could be a thing. Something we're currently using in a group I'm a part of, the Community Economic Development Partnership, is we do a thumbs up, sideways, thumbs down. So it just helps us figure out, like, without it being, thumbs up, I love it, let's do it. Thumbs sideways, like, I can go along with it. Like, yeah, sure, it's not a bad idea. It's not maybe my favorite, and then thumbs down is like, nah, that's a no-go. So pretty quickly, if you had a smaller group of ideas, you could begin to go from 10 now to 5. Like, who likes this? Yeah, we have enough thumbs. Thumb sideways means we move forward. Okay, that can stay on our list, right? So we begin to narrow down. We're trying to eliminate duplicates. We're trying to refine the ideas. We're trying to figure out, what does everybody value here? What is the reason you're saying yes or no? What is the things you care about? And then finally, we want to get to the close. This is where we agree. Like, we are choosing one thing what is our next step? So I can imagine Me holding my first chicken meeting after I've done my learning conversation. What's my name? What's my group? Free the chickens. More chickens, better Fresno. I don't know. So I've had one-on-ones. I figured out who cares about this enough to do something about it. We have a meeting in my backyard at my empty chicken coop. I have a big table. I really do have like a 10-foot table in my backyard around my garden boxes, staring at my coop. Okay, we all talk about what could we do. We've thrown out a bunch of ideas. We've narrowed it down. Now we need to get to what's our next step as a group. What is the next thing we're all going to commit to do? It could be our next step is to have more learning conversations. It could be we're going to do some research. What are other city policies? What have other cities adopted? Who could we talk to in that realm? But that's what we're deciding. And that, again, is like we're trying to figure out the red light, green light, what is going to stop us? And you have to get to that final selection. At that point, too, we want to know all the things that would stop us from getting there. So that's the general framework. If you want to open up this packet here, you have a list of each of these ideas, right? You can make a list. If you're in the open stage, create an open list, make a proposal, brainstorm. You're trying to help your group come up with ideas. That narrowing list, you're trying to eliminate, you're trying to see who cares about the issues enough. You're trying to find the advocates for the issue. You're trying to figure out who cares. And then on the final section is the close. So these are different tools you could use. How do you get to the all right, one of them is like a negative poll. Is anyone willing to take off this item off the list? So you're trying to figure out how to get something off the list so you can get down to your best option. So I'm being real general here, but I want you to practice this. And let's see, let's go to, for your small group conversation, be on this handout here. So this has that list. It says tools for reaching agreement. Tools for reaching agreement. What you're going to do, and so what I need at your tables is a facilitator. So, or Karl, are you going to be in this conversation? Maybe. For you three?
I guess I should be.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Great.
So I need you to choose a facilitator to guide the conversation. And the scenario here,
I got it.
Okay. So the scenario here is you have an eccentric cousin, Pat. Pat is coming into town one night only. You need to decide a place to take him for dinner and drinks. All right, so Pat's coming into town. I did try to give you a couple constraints here. Pat's a foodie, but currently on a budget, and he's terrified of clowns and mascot costumes. So you have a couple no-goes that would help you have filters. So yeah, we want to stay away from the crazy clown. So that is your, again, so what I want you to do, you have a, go to the next slide, Karl. And I'll put that one back up. No, let's stay here. So you're going to have 3 minutes for your open, 5 minutes for your narrow, 5 minutes for your close. If you want to play with that, I am not going to manage your time. This is part of the facilitator to try and manage the time well. That is always a challenge. When you're in a group environment, it's up to you to feel the energy. You may want to choose to change that amount of open. You may want to double it. And then you'll take time, but you have 13 minutes here total, right? 13 total to manage. And I want you to start in that brainstorming, every restaurant, every bar, whatever you can think. And then you need to figure out, okay, how could we design the best place for Pat? And then land on a final idea, okay? We may not need all the time, but we'll have it just in case, okay? Ready?
All right.
Go. So first set, facilitator. All right, give yourselves a round of applause. All right, first I want to hear the spot and the rationale, and then I would love to hear from facilitators. How was it to try and move your folks through this process? So yeah, who wants to start? Who's our facilitator?
I can start.
Okay,
So we chose Tioga and Gigi's. They are on the same street. We feel like Tioga is a pretty eccentric area, and the food at Gigi's is, I've heard, is good. So
it's good.
Together they'll be budget friendly. As well.
Gigi's is a Mediterranean spot, right?
Oh, Gigi.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hearing
Yes.
it's very popular.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Okay. And as far as facilitating, I feel like we had a good understanding of our time. I think because we've all been in a situation where we had to handle time constraints, we went around pretty quickly.
Cool. Good job. All right, in the back.
I feel like we were all on the same page on
Okay.
what to get rid of. We narrowed down on the 2 spots that we thought would be a good choice to take them. It was like taco choices because they're everywhere, they're convenient. Make it however you want. It might remind him of home before he had left.
Oh,
Another
yeah.
one we have is My Homie's Kitchen.
My homie's
Where you
kitchen.
like the environment.
Where's this? I don't know where this is.
Downtown.
Okay.
It's on Peace
Okay,
Street.
Peace Street.
My homie's kitchen.
My homie's kitchen.
What kind of food does my
Yeah.
homie's kitchen have?
So he has like a wide range of food. So it'd be like chicken, lamb, venison, stuff like that.
Oh.
Wow.
Like a lunch spot or is it a dinner spot? It's a dinner
A
spot?
little bit of both.
Okay.
Breakfast, and
Okay.
for dinner now.
Oh,
They have
okay.
It's
like a
in
farm
the-
to table
it's in the
setup where
warehouse.
Okay.
and they actually have access to a garden.
Okay.
And so they- whatever's regional, whatever's
Okay.
season. where you
yes.
just-
You're selling me.
Yes.
I think Pat's gonna like that. So, but if food trucks is still very open, because which one? Where?
Well, there's just so many. It's
Yeah.
in the corner right now.
Yeah. I like that. So my homies is very specific. Food trucks, and this is, again, when you're trying to work with residents, issues can still stay really broad, but if we can't actually mobilize around a strategy or an event or a time, that's going to be pretty hard. So, you'd want to continue to refine that to be like, which food truck, do we know where they are? Are they there? But good job, guys. Well done. All right, up here.
So we chose Tower District, starting with the Lincoln
Yes.
for the budget-friendly appetizers and
Yeah.
the drinks for the pregame. And then we said we'd take them out, also if you do the taco trucks or the
Yeah.
hot dogs to give them options, and then some type of entertainment for some live music,
Okay.
either at Howlin' Wolf or Gold Scenes, but
Yeah.
everything's centrally located.
Yeah.
You can have some options. We were starting to decide maybe on the gazebo. That was another option that may have live music, but then we were like, weather's a factor.
Yeah.
Because if it's cold right now, we wouldn't be out at the gazebo. One consideration was doghouse.
Yeah.
And then we kind of steered away from that, thinking about parking,
Yeah.
location, hectic, and
Yeah.
crowd. And so Tower District was our choice.
You can't hear him when you're eating. Hi, Pat! Awesome. Good job, guys. All right, over here.
So we actually did go for gazebo because food trucks, and yes, it is cold, but I know that they have heaters and fire pits and stuff like that, so I know that can be all right. You have drink options and whatnot. We decided to have some backups just in case it got rained out or whatnot. But so Tioga, or there's other trucks close by, Shaw and Blackstone and whatnot. Other than that, it was good. We got it down and figured it out pretty quick.
Awesome. Good job. As you imagine this framework, what are the challenges that you've experienced in meetings, or what are some things you observe that you would try to apply if you ran a meeting like this?
I just want to say I was, when she said the idea of Doghouse got put out and then got shot down, I was the one to immediately say, I do not like that. And so,
It was
like,
the look.
you have to like understand that you might really disagree with somebody, but how do you like respectfully, appreciate the other person's opinion or whatever. I mean, it turns out it was a wrong opinion.
Yeah, we had to agree on the parking. The security, like he has strong valid points.
You notice on that, so what you did there, Karl, is you advocated. So that's, and once you get in the narrow phase, you kind of need people to start to say, does anybody really passionate about this? Advocate for it. Say yes, like for or against it, right? You actually need that and want that. And that's what actually incentivizes people to show up present and not just go along with the facilitator. In these kind of conversations, if you're actually going to get residents to buy in, you need people passionate about a thing. And so you need to find out who is either passionate, we've got to be about this, or I cannot keep going if you chose that, right? Like, I am so opposed to that thing, I could not show up, right? And so you need the advocates.
So it's more being less passive and be like, okay, I'm a people pleaser.
Yes. Yeah.
But be like, no, like, I really like Doghouse.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
right there in front of Fresno
Yeah.
State. Everybody knows that's Doghouse. They
Yep.
have this amazing fries. You know, you can't go wrong. Yeah, the parking is difficult, but that's where you could just rearrange your time.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what time is the best, that's not gonna get
Yeah.
that much crowded. Are we willing to pay for parking to get a good spot and get the, what was it, valet parking?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you want to be less passive and more active
Yes.
voice.
Yeah.
Is not going to the meeting and thinking, oh, my voice got shut down, no one likes my ideas.
Because I've seen a lot of spaces where residents don't share, but as soon as the meeting is over, as soon as the facilitator leaves, all they do is complain that they never felt heard. And often I think we can blame the resident, say, well, you didn't speak up. And so a facilitator leaves being like, that was a great conversation. I got everything I wanted. And everybody else leaves going like, I didn't feel heard, I didn't feel valued, and now I don't even want to keep going to this meeting. I don't care about the thing they're talking about, you know? And so often it's a facilitation error, I think, that we don't actually let people voice their opinion. We can't hold their opinion. We don't want pushback or tension. But pushback or tension in a community issue is everything. Like, it's all about it. So yeah, inviting that, welcoming that, and then maybe that then gets you to two main issues. So now you're narrowed, now you need to choose. Ultimately, you do have to choose, and that is the challenge, is to say, hey, as we get to that like close, like maybe we're gonna try gazebo this time, and next time when Pat comes, or the next person we take out, let's go to Doghouse, right? So there are also options to say, and then, or here's our next chance, but you're gonna have to land on a thing. So I think of Lowell CDC in the past, what they did this resident all got together and said our alleys and the lighting in our street is tough. So like they got together and said, let's do a walk audit in our neighborhood to talk about the lights and the safety issues that we see. That lighting may not be everybody's set issue, but it's a good chunk of us. And so let's do that now. Next time, let's talk about the other issue that these residents are talking about. And so if you can get these small wins, those build on each other. So I think that's it for me. Give yourselves again a round of applause. I would encourage you later to read over this, to study this. As you come into a meeting, again, we want to set up spaces that help people feel seen and heard. And open, narrow, close is just a tool to help us do that and to move forward in this organizing cycle.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, Andrew.
So one of the things that you can do is look into your packet. A lot of you have already done this, where you've brought out your ABCD sheet. It's two-sided. It has a picture of the cycle, which is really just a helpful little tool for your memory. And then it has the steps. I just wanted to explain why number 1 has 3 headings in it. So just as a reminder, since it's not written there on your page. Learning conversations involve the pre-work that you're doing before you're actually engaging with the community engagement portion. The triangle is like how you're bringing people in conversation from the broad relational connection to like, okay, now we're actually talking about our common interests, right? So I just wanted to kind of remind you all of that. Right now we are at step 5. So we've already done the process of, we've had these conversations, we've chosen an issue for action. We need to have a strategy to be able to actually implement this thing, right? We don't want to just, okay, great, we chose an issue, what are we going to do, right? So in order to craft the strategy, the first step according to this cycle is to research the issue. What you're doing is that those connector leaders, remember there's people that you're establishing connections with to go have more learning conversations. They're going to be the people who are going to help you identify people who will be capable of gaining more information about the particular issue. So there's a difference between the types of people who are in this conversation that are just like, I'm interested, I want to show up for this, and the person who's like, I actually know something about this, I can help us to find information so that we can craft a strategy. So that's what this part of the process is about. Whatever this looks like, if it's like a focus table or in a lot of these big community outreach steps, this is where we have kind of a public meeting where we do a presentation, where we bring other people into the mix or whatever that looks like. The whole point is to get some voices who will be able to help you ask really specific, helpful questions about what you're looking at. Bless you. So there's after you've gotten outside of Andrew's house, you see that these meetings are happening in a restaurant, right? Like in a more public space. You're kind of showing up. You're making a commitment to this community in a way that's a little more visible. That's part of what this part of the process is also about. And as you research, the bits of a plan start to come into place, okay? So I want you to now get out this part of your packet that looks like this. It says the issue cutting checklist. So planning and action is also what is called in like organizer speak, organizer lingo, as issue cutting. So the issue you have chosen, you have decided, you see it. Now it needs to be cut. You need to really parse it apart and understand the issue, the physical, geographic context, what kind of data you need to understand this issue, and the people that are involved. So that's why there's 4 categories here with little checklists. I just want to let you know before we actually ask you to like start talking with your tables about the kind of work that you're doing in the community and how you would use this issue cutting checklist. That it is not a sequential checklist, okay? So this thing is not meant to be filled out like this thing before this thing before this thing before this thing. All of it can be piecemeal. You're not going to necessarily be able to cross off or check off every single thing in order to successfully implement a strategy for the type of work that you do. This is also not all of the things that you're going to necessarily need for your strategy. It's just something that we've kind of crafted to capture what we feel doing this kind of work at the neighborhood level are the most helpful things to ask when it comes to the issue, planning and action, identifying the problem and the possible solutions. When it comes to the area, the physical geographical context, that's like, do I know what this area looks like? Remember what Andrew said about that meeting for Susan B. Anthony. What is the Tower District? Does everybody in this neighborhood understand themselves as belonging to the same neighborhood? That might be important if you're doing particular kind of work, especially with schools, for example, or in the immediate vicinity of a housing project or a church or something like that. The data, what data is available, what do you have access to, what do you need, the people, that's where you need to bust out the contact list that you've gathered and what kind of information have we gathered, what kind of people, again, asset-based community development, what kind of assets are already showing up in this conversation to get this started. So issue cutting and planning the action. You're trying to assemble collectively together the information that you have already researched to put it into a plan. And then you implement the strategy. So taking action is going to look very different depending on what we're doing. To actually do infrastructure improvement, taking action means actually having something put on the agenda of a city council meeting, for example. How do we do that? That's what this issue cutting checklist is helping us to do. That's just one example, right? Or maybe it won't be that much. Maybe it's just to put it on the planning commission's agenda. That's a different process. Again, do we know what scale, what is actually needed for this issue? And then we take the action. And in this case, for this neighborhood around Blackstone, they're all representing themselves. There's like elected officials at that time. They're making a big old, they're kind of being theatrical about it, because you need to be a little theatrical to get attention. This is where if you have social media people, they're your friends, right? Like you want to get good attention. And then, by the way, your elected officials, they like to be a part of that stuff. They like to, I'm getting, so you can use that to your advantage as well, if it's good press, right, for the neighborhood. And then the crucial part at the end of this is you've got to do a sit down with your leaders and say, what went well, how did we do, what can we do? Because chances are, if you're doing this kind of work, the issue that you're taking action upon is not the only thing that you want to work on. As a matter of fact, hopefully you're not aiming so broad and so high that this is impossible to achieve and you burn people out and people start dropping off. You want to be taking action in a way that where people can achieve something to be able to celebrate, and that gains momentum, right? Like people want to get involved, want to keep staying involved if like something gets achieved and you are able to celebrate, like for example this group where boom, they got that stoplight, after the years of their involvement. And that's the core group of leaders and their families, right? Like they were able to say, yes, we were a part of that, and now we're still involved in our neighborhood. And Juana Iris is now a contractor for our department, and she's leading Spanish language workshops for us, which I think is really special, in addition to all this other amazing organizing work that she already does. Exactly. So the idea is like now she's developing and sending out leaders in the neighborhood around Winchell and Sequoia Middle School. Because that's the potential here. In the same way that like your institution, we know that your institutions are capable of developing leaders and feeding back into the mission and vision of that institution, right? Of your organization. But this is also possible in like a physical and a geographical and like a spatial sense, that like that can be something that we can invite other people to, because we're involved in like the common good of our community, of our neighborhood, of our schools, of etc. Right? So that's what we're kind of inviting you to consider. So I want us to take a minute, take a second, take stock. Each of you probably came in here. If you didn't, that's okay. But you probably came in here with an idea of the type of community work, the type of issue that you want to narrow in on. And so the question that we have for you is, what is your strategy so far? And how can we move that strategy just one step or two steps or however many steps possible forward to the point where we can implement it, okay? That's where we want you to use this issue cutting checklist. That's where we want you to use the resources that we've given you in your packets, which are basically all the stuff that we talked about from our first Fresno Lab Day, where we talked about the EnviroScore map and the poverty map and why those are related, how they overlap. We gave you a map of our city council districts, so you know, depending on which neighborhood you're looking at, who's the elected official that you might need to be getting in contact with, right? All of those are pieces of the plan. So this pretty much almost the rest of our time for the next half an hour or so is actually moving forward into the plan. But I want to give us a second just to like take a breath and remind ourselves, like, what did we come in here to try to work on on behalf of our organization, on behalf of the type of work we do? What's our issue? Do we have a strategy so far? How can I be involved in like bringing that strategy forward? And then I want us to, in table groups, this is where it's okay for you to be working with your same organizations to like talk together. And for those of us who are at a table with different organizations, to learn from each other about what we're working on and the strategy that we're using to implement. And Christian and myself will kind of rove around the room and just listen in, and we'll listen to if you're getting stuck, if you're like, I don't know what to do, like, this is what we really love, to be able to be resources for you to tap into your neighborhoods far better than we ever could, right? So let's take a beat with these questions. And now let's practice. So for the rest of the time, I'll bring us together and let's start cutting our issues a little bit. My colega Christian is going to help lead the debrief, but I also just want to hear, just kind of like we did last time, in general, how was this? Was this confusing? Was it helpful? Was it like, oh, interesting? Yeah, general feelings first, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of everything. How was this last couple minutes looking at the?
Marcus,
Yeah, Marcus.
right here.
I feel like we had a very productive conversation. We did let Lexi kind of give us a rundown of the issues she's facing in her community and what she wants to be fixed and just addressed. And just hearing like the several different concerns she had, we were able to narrow it down to a specific cause or specific action.
Nice.
So some of her issues were the streetlights were out, the gutters in the streets were getting clogged and flooded when it rained. There was no speed bumps, the alleys were dirty. So all of those issues kind of congregated to an issue of safety, and that's something that we can kind of align people with. Like, you know, some people, like Justin had mentioned, don't have a car, so they don't care if the streets are getting clogged or if there's no speed bumps because it doesn't concern them, but safety does. Safety
Yes.
concerns everybody
And if
in
there's
that.
no speed bumps, the cars might concern them.
Exactly, right? Like, you know, you're walking,
Yeah,
so like
yeah,
street lights, you don't have
exactly.
street lights, you're walking in the
Yes.
dark, like that's
Yep.
just, you know. So it's just kind of framing that issue to make the majority of people want to rally towards it, and that's, I feel like those are really productive conversation of just seeing all these different issues, but it's all aligning to one simple goal of safety.
And I love that because that's where like Leslie, if you're the organizer, you might have that idea that like we want to get lights and speed bumps right here.